Hi everyone. In a minute I'm going to be speaking with Jen Graham on our small group value of outward. And just as a reminder, outward is serving those in our local community, in the greater city of Austin, and those in need around the world. Jen Graham she's an ER doctor, she's a MOLO leader in our parish, and a longtime Christ Church member. I hope that you enjoy our conversation as we learn together. Hi Jen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi.
Are you doing all right?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for joining me to talk about Outward, our small group value of Outward. And Outward, just as a reminder for me, for you, for everyone, Outward means serving those in our local community in the greater city of Austin and those in need around the world. And I'm so excited to be interviewing you for this small group value because I just feel like you exemplify that value in so many areas of your life. So before we get into that, I just want to hear a little bit about you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you work, your family.
So I am married to Josh Graham for 5.5 years. We've been at Christ Church for the whole time we started here as newlyweds. I have 2 kids. I have Lucy, my daughter Lucy, who's 4 years old, and then my son Benjamin, who's 15 months. And I work as an ER doctor down at Seton Hayes in Kyle, Texas.
Very cool. Well, so you said you've been at Christ Church for 5 years, 5.5 years. So in that time, I know you're a MOLO leader, Mothers of Little Ones, and as a MOLO, I'm super grateful for your leadership there. Tell us about the ministries that you've been involved in and that you've helped build over your years at Christ Church, including.
Sure. When Josh and I first started coming, we were part of a small group that was with Peter Aquello, who went on to Church of the Cross. So from there, we led a small group for a couple of years, and then we were small group coaches. And then,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I became a leader with MOLO for the past few years. And Josh serves Chalice, and then he has been a part of all of the small groups and the coaching too.
And then one more icebreaker. So you're obviously typically, maybe a little bit less so right now, but you're a very busy woman, working full time in a stressful environment, a mom, super involved, in our church. If you could have a personal assistant.
Do you have one for me?
Yeah, right. I wish. I'll be your personal assistant today. But if you could have a personal assistant who could just follow you around all day long, what would you have them do?
That's a great question. I would have them meal prep, meal plan, grocery shop,
all things food.
Play with kids, pick up toys. I think that's it.
Nice.
Those things would fill up their time.
Okay. What would you do while she or he was doing that?
I would run, I would read a book, I would be playing with them while the things are being prepared, I would sleep.
Oh, yeah.
I would get together with people from 6 feet apart, so many things.
All the things that none of us are getting enough
of
right now.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for telling us a little bit about yourself. So just want to talk with you a little bit about the outward value in our small groups ministry. And my first question is just that you spend your life, so much of your life, in service to others, through your many roles. And so what has service in its many forms, what has it cost you over the years?
I would say in the beginning, to get to the point of being a doctor, it was kind of my 20s. So it was all of my 20 to 32-year-old time was spent in medical school and in college and medical school and residency and post-grad work. So it was the hours and hours of education and all of that. And then maybe more recently, just because I'm in the emergency room and my schedule tends to be days, nights, weekends, holidays, kind of all over the place. it's cost our family some rhythms of regularity.
Very cool. So you talked about just what your service has cost you over the years, and what in addition to that, or on the other side of the coin, what has it given you as a reward? What have you gained from your service?
Well, so service in my family has gained me the family of my dreams. I mean, we're fun-loving. We enjoy time together. It's been wonderful to see how pouring into my family pays out in manyfold. In Molo and in the church, it has given me deeper connections and kind of created the community here that I love at Christ Church. And then certainly with my work, I mean, I find fulfillment in what I do every time I go to work, and I love my job, and I feel very much like it was a calling from early on. I mean, I think I was in 5th grade when I knew I was going to be a doctor, and so it still feels like a calling and like a true vocation for me. So
what drew you to that? Like in 5th grade, what were some of those earliest?
That's a great question. I don't know. My mom was a nurse, but she stayed home with us, so she wasn't working when I was little. So I have no concrete thing that I could point to, but it was always there. And so
yeah, 5th grade's early. Wow.
So that was to put a date on it, like that was in 1989, and I wrote a letter to myself to be opened in 1999, like right before the millennium, that said what I wanted to be doing when I was in 1999. And so that was 5th grade, so I wrote this letter, and in it I said I wanted to be going to medical school so that I could become a doctor. Wow. So I knew, I have physical evidence that it was an early calling, yeah.
That is amazing. Wow, for you to have that clarity and that endurance and perseverance to just seek that out, and you have reaped the rewards of that, and you've helped so many people. So that is really cool. That's amazing. So often our outward service, whether through work or through outreach efforts in our church or in the realm of family, our outward service connects us with people who have a recognizable need, an observable need. And so in your outward service, how has your relationship with God shaped how you interact with people in need?
Part of it is just the decision I made to go into emergency medicine in the first place, because, I mean, by default, my everyday work puts me directly in contact with all comers, people from birth to death, people on all ends of the spectrum, socioeconomically, intellectually, suffering-wise, men, women, children, adults, every possible category. It's all comers, and so I'm just by default I'm in contact with such a wide variety of people. And then on top of that, the nature of the work is so quick. As an emergency physician, I'm not developing deep relationships with people. So there's kind of like, at times it's like a surface level interaction, but within that small interaction, it's very weighty, because it's usually the worst part of someone's day or life is coming to see me. And so I think it's through maybe the time that I spend and kind of the type of questions I'm asking, or the maybe listening ear that I provide in those moments. And then it happens sometimes in ways that I'm not necessarily able to define, but an example is that a couple days ago, one of the other doctors that I work with, it was her last day working at my hospital, and so I'd written her a note, and when she wrote back to me, she had said that she sees the light of Christ in me and my generous spirit. And I just say that to mean that she and I had never really had spiritual conversations, and so it it helps reaffirm what I hope I'm doing, which is to kind of be the light of Christ in my work, even if it's not in overt conversations, but maybe just the interactions that I have with patients and with other staff and doctors, that it looks different.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good. Well, so your work as an ER doctor is by definition outward work. You are sacrificially serving those in physical need in our city. And so, especially right now in this season, what is your job looking like?
Because many people are either fearful of coming to the doctor or to the hospital, or can't get there, or just are nervous about the whole thing. Many people aren't coming, which is why things have slowed down a lot. However, every single shift that I work is almost completely full of people who are very sick. So it has really kind of created a very intense work environment, because either people are waiting for a long time to come to the hospital and they wait till it gets very serious, or just a lot of people decide I'm just not going to go for things that might not be quite as emergent, and then we end up just seeing like pretty serious stuff. I would say work is more intense, but there's more time outside of work.
So what would you say to the person who is wondering, how can I love and serve my neighbor in this season? How can I be outward in this season? You mentioned, obviously, as a doctor, you mentioned social distancing and how that's worked, and how it's eliminated or really just tamped down surges. But what are some other ways that we can outwardly love and serve our neighbors in this season?
I definitely would say the distancing is important. It's still important. It's working, but it needs to continue working. So even as things open up, I still think it's important to be very mindful of that. I also think it's really important that we support our local economy, that we kind of pour into, as much as we're able, the businesses in our neighborhoods and in our church. Whatever we can avoid on Amazon and at big box stores, and that we could buy locally, even if it costs a little bit more, tip a little bit more, just small things like that. Also, I think it's important that even though we're socially distancing, we're not isolating. And so just because we're not supposed to be within 6 feet, I think driveway hangouts are still great. And maybe even walks with people, wearing a mask, or still making intentional relationships happen, even face to face, albeit at 6 feet apart. And then, of course, in the Zooming, the texting, just kind of staying relevant in one another's lives. And then the last thing I would say, one of the most important things would be to turn off your phone, stop checking mail, stop checking the news, really, because I think that the only thing that's more contagious than COVID would be the panic surrounding it. And so I've just seen so much anxiety around this that probably is real, but at the same time maybe hyped up by all the news and the media coverage. And there's more information out there than there is actual news. And so I think that we need to maybe limit ourselves to 1 or 2 checks a day and try and keep it away from bedtime, and pursue a good book before we go to sleep instead. And then the final thing I would say would be to stay connected to our church through the e-news, checking the website. There's lots of opportunities to help our local community, the community right across the street, the Tent City, the Austin Baptist Chapel, and lots of other ways. And so staying connected that way is important too.
Yeah. Well, so when living and serving sacrificially, it can be really easy, I think, to not care for your own body and soul. It can be really easy as you're just being so busy caring for others that you forget that you need to care for yourself. And so obviously, with your work, you mentioned that it's you're not doing as much of it, but when you're there, it's really intense. What are some practices for you over the years, but especially in this season, that you have just incorporated for your holistic health? What are some practices that come to mind?
Well, I would say running has been really powerful during this time because it's given me a chance to do a hard thing that's not work, that's not COVID, and it puts myself through some physical discomfort, and then there's an end point, and then I'm done. And it's given me a chance, like while I'm in it for 30 minutes, to really focus on a goal that's totally different than everything else that's kind of out there right now. And so it's just been really good, I think, for my mind and my soul. And then
just to disconnect, kind of,
exactly,
and do something worthwhile,
exactly,
but not like the thing that you need to focus on.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then kind of being in nature too. It's given us such a good chance as a family to be more mindful of this beautiful world that we live in, and when you can't do the normal things, it's given us a way to kind of spend time doing things that maybe wouldn't have had time for or just thought about as much. And when nothing else is open but the state parks, it gives you added incentive.
Yeah, I feel like Austin as a community is especially like doing okay because it's already such an outdoor community, and creation care is such a value in our city, and I think it's going to become even more so after this season. So that's my hope anyway. It sounds like that's what it's been for you and your family's life.
Yes, definitely.
Have you guys started a garden or gotten more plants or?
We planted a few flowers.
I haven't started a garden.
The things that other people have planted.
Okay, there you go. You're cultivating life.
That's right.
Well, Jen, thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you for talking with us about how we can outwardly love and serve our neighbors, and just for giving us a sense of what it's looking like as an ER doctor in our city this time. And please know that we are praying for you as you continue to serve people and to heal those who are, like you said, coming in to see you on the worst day of your life. So, just know that we are with you and we are praying for you in this season.
Thank you.